So welcome back everyone to the last part in your free time management course brought to you by Professional Futures Limited. So in this session we'll be looking at the last 3 tips to do with time management. So that includes looking at time gaps, using your time twice and being more assertive. So tip number 8 is about using your time gaps. And time gaps are intervals of free time which are in between activities, if you like. So that might be in between a meeting, waiting in the car for somebody, or generally just waiting around being quite unproductive. Okay, so the key with thinking about your time gaps is by looking at your day and working out where you're likely to experience small wasted gaps of time where actually you can plan small tasks that could be completed in that time. Now that's not to say that you shouldn't have breaks, and this isn't about taking those break times away from you. This is about trying to plan your time so that you're a lot more productive. So once you've figured out what your time gaps might well be, then you can work out some of the tasks that will fit into those small little gaps of time. So one of the examples might be where you might make some phone calls while you're waiting, or you might well respond to any emails. You might read up on something on your device. So I get a lot of notifications, so Twitter feeds, blogs, that kind of thing, that will help develop your knowledge. Or you might well use those little time gaps to help you prepare for upcoming meetings. The key with this is just making sure that you have figured out what those time gaps are and you're planning in small tasks that can be completed within those small little gaps. Tip number 9 is about using your time twice, which is quite similar to figuring out your time gaps. But what using your time twice means is that you're doing 2 activities at the same time. Okay. So in that way, your productivity and efficiency aren't being sacrificed. So what you're doing is still as good a standard as ever, but you are managing to complete more than one activity, at the same time. So what are some examples of using your time twice? And I'm sure that a lot of you do this already. So think about it if you're ever on public transportation, for example a train or a bus, you might well stare out the window and just watch the world go by and just take that as a bit of a break. Or you might well choose to read or study so that you can use that time effectively. You might listen to an educational podcast, perhaps when you're driving. So my example is that I like to learn Italian. When I'm driving, I do look a bit of a nutter, but I just find that actually it helps me to relax, but also uses that time. Other examples could be using your home exercise equipment whilst watching telly. That was one of the first things I did when I started getting into exercising, was actually use the exercise bike whilst watching Neighbours and Home and Away, and then obviously then on to Coronation Street, as you do. Another example, and this is very personal to me, is I like to iron whilst watching Jeremy Kyle. Don't like ironing at all, but watching Jeremy Kyle while I iron takes my mind off it. So not only am I getting my Jeremy Kyle fix, but I'm also getting that awful job done that I hate to do. And last but not least, tip number 10 is about being more assertive. Now, being assertive is a massive topic, so we're just going to look at a couple of things to consider. So when we think about being more assertive, one of the things that you should consider is to ensure that you keep focus on what is urgent and what is important to you. So when people are giving you tasks to do, you need to consider whether those tasks are urgent or important to you. Okay. Bear in mind at all times what your personal goals and objectives are, and always try to ensure that you negotiate a win-win situation, so you get a result that you would like as well as the other individual who's asking something of you. So how can you become a little bit more assertive? Well, don't say yes to tasks, especially if you don't have the time, motivation, interest or skills in what's being asked of you. Okay, a lot of us will struggle with this, but what you need to try to develop is an ability to negotiate. And then say no to tasks that have little impact on your own goals or targets. So consider what's being asked of you and weigh up whether what's being asked of you links into your own personal goals and targets. Consider that if they're not, then is it feasible for you to say no to that particular task? So I hope you've enjoyed your free time management course brought to you by Professional Futures Limited. As promised, at the end of this course you will be able to download 2 time management tools. So one's a time thief analysis tool and the second one is a time management grid. We will also be running a number of online courses in the very near future, so if you'd like to reserve your place on our next online course, then please feel free to contact us on info@professional-futures.com. I look forward to talking with you again in the future, and happy time management.